It's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to a new video. Now in this one I'm going to quickly go over refining order blocks, so make sure you listen up because the same rule applies for as when we go on to refining imbalances. Now it's a very it's one of them. It's not a necessity, because at the end of the day, if we have an hourly order block, then sometimes we're okay with staying with that order block, and I'll discuss in a minute on why we would stay with the order block, for example, right? So as you can see here, that blue candle there on the screen is the 1 hour time frame. However, within that candle on a lower time frame, so the 15-minute or even the 1 minute, you can see next to it is the 15-minute time frame, and there is a clear OB, and that is now your refined order block. Now it's very simple. So pretty much what you're doing is, if you identify a high time frame order block and you go down to the smaller time frame, you will find an order block within that order block. I'll show you some examples of me drawing them up in a minute, but quickly I just wanted to say as well, if you are happy with the risk to reward given from a particular time frame order block, then simply use that one. Don't get greedy and don't use lower time frames if it makes you anxious. Remember, this is another tip as well, because we mostly take confirmation entries, sometimes the refinement isn't necessary, because all we need to do is identify the high time frames. For example, I use the 4 hour to find my order blocks. Then if I go down to the 1 hour and see if I can find any refinement, just simply because, again, it depends on how big the order block is. Okay, if the 4 hour is telling me, showing me that it's a big order block, then I simply will look to refine it. But if it's a small order block and, in terms of a risk entry, I'm happy with the risk to reward, then yeah, I will look at, not refining it. But all we have to do is just react to what the market, when a market taps into that area. So if you have a 4 hour point of interest and you're happy with the size of it, then don't worry about refining. But refining is just essentially go on a small time frame and find an order block within an order block. Okay, so if we were just to look here, right, we can go ahead and mark up this as an order block, right? We've got a 4 hour order block. That's our supply zone, because obviously it's below price. And then if we just go to, let's say, the 1 hour start off with, you can see another order block within this whole order block. Okay, so you can keep that drawn up. Now this is the only problems, and I'll talk about pros and cons to it in a minute. And this is the only problem, right? Sometimes when you do refine it and you are, for example, focusing on this order block here on a 1 hour time frame, then that's going to throw you off, because you're probably sat there thinking, well, what if I wanted to take a trade from the 4 hour open of the order block? But when I refined it, how do we know that price is going to come all this way? Well, if it just taps the open. So this is why it's okay if you don't want to order, if you don't want to refine it. At the end of the day, we look for confirmation entries mostly. So we don't care what's going on, where price reacts to within here. It could come to here, react, could come all the way to here to react. We don't care. Well, I don't anyway. Simply because I dropped to the the 1 minute, 5 minute, somewhere within here. Right, most likely here, because you can see there's an hourly order block break structure here. No order block break structure. There's an hourly order block. There's an hourly breaker structure. Sorry, and as you can see, price retrace. So somewhere within there, that little sort of range where you see the wicks, is most likely an order block. So again, what people do is they go down to the 30-minute and they just keep dropping the time frames to try and find the most precision. And that's essentially what is what happens. It's the same rule for the imbalances, and I'll make a separate video for that. Okay, but usually what they look for here is to refine it. Again, they have one here, but they also have one here, and it's again still within this 1 hour order block. So they'll go down to the 15-minute and the same process until we just get the most precision. At this point, I wouldn't personally go. Why can't I go back in price? At this point, I don't think I can go back in price, because I'm not sure what's going on there. But at that point, I probably wouldn't refine it. I'd probably just stick to the 4 hour, because again, we take confirmation entries. But if I did refine it to the hourly, I would just simply look at the hourly time frame, right? Again, we can try and find another example. So if we just look at this order block here, right? If we just mark up this 4 hour block, actually, I'm just going to show you this. If we mark up this 4 hour order block, right, we can see there that in terms of the size, it's fine. Right, there is an imbalance below, so you have to be careful of that, because obviously that's what price tapped into. But in terms of focus on this subject, that is that's small enough. That's fine. So if we was to take a risk entry, right? Say for example, a wick didn't come below, and our stops was just below there, right? And we targeted these highs. That's still 8.32%, right? But obviously, when we include liquidity, there's an imbalance below price. So we probably look to target, have our stops below this Asian range, and that's still 2.91%. Obviously, in terms of risk reward, that isn't the best, but I remember, the market owes us F all, so therefore we must take what we can, I guess, right? But the moral of the story is that, just only refine the order blocks if the order block is big. But all you have to do is just simply draw up the order block, right? Go down to the 1 hour time frame, find an order block within that order block, right? And then go to the 30-minute, look for an order block within that order block. Go to the 15-minute, look for an order block within that order block, okay? And that's the exact process and what, you should do. And yeah, that's pretty much it when it comes to refinement, honestly. There isn't really much to it. I could show you another example. So if we look at this here, right? A 4 hour order block, right? That's a quite big order block. So if I was to take a risk entry, that's pretty big. So I'm going to go down to the 1 hour. It doesn't matter what time frame you go on. I must clear that up here. It does not matter what time frame you go on at all. As you can see, we have order block there. Isn't the cleanest, but there wasn't really much momentum carried over from this order block anyway. Okay, that's another thing as well when it comes to refinement. If you can make the minor refinements as well. For example, if we were to look at this order block here, right, class this as an order block, we can actually go ahead and refine it to the next order block because there wasn't much momentum carried over. Yes, you had bigger wicks, but if you were just trading the bodies, which most people do, then there isn't really much momentum carried over from that candle to the next candle. So you can go ahead and refine it to the next candle and keep doing that process until, well, you get the best of the best, I guess, right? Because again, you look at this last down candle before the up move, right? If you just look at this down candle to compare it to the next candle, what can you see? Well, there isn't actually much momentum that was carried over, so you can go ahead and just drag it across and just refine it. And that's another way of refining order blocks. And it's simply just looking at the candle, and if it looks like this, similar to the next candle, then there hasn't been much momentum carried over, so you can go ahead and refine it. Okay, but you don't have to worry about doing all that. The moral of the story is just, for me anyways, is just mark up the higher time frame, preferably the 4 hour point of the time frame. Look for your point of interest, look for the order blocks, and then once you're on that time frame, just if you're not happy with how big the 4 hour order block is, for example, you may think this here is one massive order block, right? You can go ahead and refine an order block within there, right? So if we just go to the 1 hour time frame, we can try and look for an order block within that order block, right? As you can see, there's one here, right? It's still pretty big. I'm not happy with it, so I'm going to go ahead onto the let's go to the 15-minute, right? I don't know why price is not letting me go back that fast. Let's go to the 30-minute instead, right? And again, you can go ahead and refine it. And then that there would be your demand zone, and that does make sense because all you're doing is, you started off on the 4 hour time frame to the 1 hour to the 30-minute, and it doesn't matter what time frame you go on to refine your order blocks. It's completely subjective and up to you. But yeah, that's pretty much it really in terms of refinement. There isn't really much to it, and in the next video we'll jump on to imbalances and I'll quickly explain that one. Obviously there's probably a couple of different terms, and yeah, so thanks for watching guys, and that's pretty much refining order blocks.